Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eat to Treat. I'm Amaris Williams, Dr. Amaris Williams, whatever. I got a PhD in nutrition, and I'm an avid foodie and a cook. And today I'm showing you some snack foods that I like to have when it's in between meals and I'm getting a little uh, hungry. So, and it's something that you want to eat to not to ruin your meal, but to stop you from being hangry when you sit down with the people that you're eating with, so that you're not, um, impolite. So the first thing is your oven should be at 400 degrees Fahrenheit if you are making the beets hummus or the roasted garlic hummus. So if you're making either of those, go ahead and turn your oven on to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I forgot to do the rest of my intro. So Eat to Treat does uh, cook along cooking demos every first and third Saturday. And it's usually a blood pressure friendly recipe. And then with some modifications, you can make it a diabetes friendly as well. But it's just generally healthy food. So even if you don't have high blood pressure or diabetes, you can eat like this to prevent yourself from getting those things, in addition to other healthy lifestyle factors like not smoking, exercising, all the things people don't want to do. So, um, this is a beet right here. It normally has green stems growing out of this end, and then that's the root. Looks like a root. So, um, I'm going to cut off the root, and I'm going to cut off all the stems, what's left of them. So all I have is the beet itself. So that's what I've done. And what you want to do is get yourself a little bit of olive oil. You don't have to use an expensive oil for this. Any oil really will do. So you don't need to break out your extra virgin olive oil. And I just pour a little bit in my palm and then cover the beet in oil. I'm not sure that this really does anything, actually. I haven't tried roasting a beet without covering it in oil first, but I mean, what does it really do? Because the next thing we're going to do is foil the beet. So we've oiled the beet, now we've foiled the beet. Sounds like I should be a rapper. Not a very good one, though. And now it's ready to go in the oven. So you can put your beet in the oven just like this. Set it over here. I've already roasted my beets because it takes 45 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit to roast them. So, and I know you guys don't want to wait around that long. All right, so if you are making the roasted garlic hummus, you need a whole bulb of garlic. Garlic paste is not going to work for this. If you try to put garlic paste in your oven at 400 degrees for 45 minutes, you will start a fire. So let's not do that. So I'm gonna the recipe calls for 2 bulbs of garlic. These are regular size bulbs of garlic. If you have that elephant garlic that's just ginormous, just one or maybe even a half a bulb of garlic would work for that. So what we want to do is get this very loose papery stuff off, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The whole point is just so it doesn't start a fire, which is going to be covered in oil and foil. So we're going to oil and foil the garlic just like we oil and foil the beet. And so it's not going to be in direct contact with the heat, but it's still going to get hot in there. So get the papery stuff off because that's just kindling for your oven fire. Also, if you don't own a fire extinguisher, or if you've had your fire extinguisher for 3 years like I have, you might want to get that checked out. Just saying. Alright. So this is good for my garlic. One of my cloves came loose, but that's fine. And I'm just going to oil and foil it, like I said. So just put a little oil in my hand. And rub it on the garlic. And then wrap it up. And that can go in the oven with the beet. I'm gonna bake these later because I've already peeled and cut them. And I do roast my garlic whole. Some people cut it, like sometimes they say cut it, so if this is the stem end, which it is, and this is the root end, people say cut it in between the stem and the root end like this, so it's in half with all the insides of the cloves exposed. And you can roast it like that, but the reason why I don't roast it like that is because it makes a mess. Inside the foil, it's not like it makes a mess and you have to clean your oven afterwards, but it's a messy inside the foil. The garlic flavor escapes, and it's just not what I want. So when I roast them whole, everything is contained, and then I can smash them into my sieve, which is what I do. Even if I cut it first, I'm gonna take the garlic and put it and mash it through a sieve, so I get a fine paste of garlic, roasted garlic, and that's what we're gonna be doing today. And so you can do that whether you cut the garlic first or after you roast it. So it doesn't make that much different. It's just how messy you want your foil to be. So let's pretend that those are in the oven and roasting and we're waiting. So while we're waiting, let's make the spinach dip. And for that, you need 10 ounces of wilted spinach. I think on the recipe I said frozen spinach. And if you're working with frozen spinach, all you do is thaw it and then it's ready to go. But I'm working with wilted spinach because I thought I had frozen spinach in my freezer, but I did not verify this before I went to the grocery store, and therefore I have no frozen spinach. So I have fresh spinach that I've wilted, and this is about 10 ounces of spinach cooked down. And all I'm going to do is just roughly chop it, and I'm going to run my knife through it just like this a couple of times in a few different directions. And now I'm done. So now I'm at the same point that you're at if you're using frozen spinach that you've thawed. You've got a wilted spinach that is room temperature and cut into small pieces. The problem is that it's wet. So we want to get some of this liquid out. And I'm going to use paper towels. You can use a, what is it called? A tea towel if you have a green one or a black one or something like that. But if you have only white ones like I do, I don't recommend using your nice white towel unless you don't mind that it turns green in some places, because the chlorophyll is staining. You can get it out with like OxyClean and soaking it and all that, but I think that that's just unnecessary when you can use paper towels. So let me just get plenty of paper towels to do the job. And just get as much liquid out as you can. And once the liquid stops squeezing out onto your cutting board, go ahead and get yourself a large bowl and put your spinach in it. And this is good because we're using low-fat, all low-fat ingredients here. So it's in accordance with the Diabetes Prevention Program diet. There's really very little carbohydrate in this dip. The only carbohydrate you have to worry about is what you are dipping into the dip, like crackers or what else do people dip? Chips, pretzels, pretzel sticks, whatever you got. That's where your carbohydrate is going to come from, not necessarily from the dip. But the dip, and the good thing about the dip is that it's going to be low in fat. So normally when you have a dip, like say you have a crudité platter with carrots and celery like I've got here, the ranch dressing or whatever you're dipping it into usually has a lot of fat in it. But where this is an alternative to that you can make up, and it's going to taste just as good. So we've got the 10 ounces of spinach that's been reasonably dried out. The next thing we want to do is add 1 cup of fat-free yogurt, plain fat-free yogurt. So this is non-fat yogurt, plain. It doesn't say Greek, It's not fancy. This is Aldi brand, as cheap as humanly possible yogurt. And it's going to work just fine. And I don't have a cup to measure it with. Just did not prepare well today. I'll be right back. Okay, cup. So, I'm just going to get a cup of yogurt out of this tub of yogurt. And that's good. And just put it in the bowl. Alright. And then the next ingredient is 4 ounces of fat-free cream cheese. And the brand doesn't matter, but at my grocery store, the only fat-free cream cheese they had, well, actually they didn't have, they have 1/3 less fat cream cheese, which is better than nothing, but it's not ideal. But this is all they had in the way of reduced fat cream cheese. So, and this is an 8-ounce package. So I'm just going to cut it in half to get to my 4 ounces. And it's got lines on the side, so that helps you out. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Well, these lines are not helpful at all. There's 7 lines in 8 ounces. So what does that make sense? Yeah, it's an 8-ounce package, but there's 7 lines. So just cut it in half. Just guesstimate. Okay. Alrighty. And then I'm just going to squeeze it into the bowl. Like toothpaste. Except more delicious. I think they make toothpaste not taste good on purpose so that people don't eat it. But that's just my opinion. Okay. And next up is a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan, and then a 1/4 cup of chopped shallots or scallions. So I did have a shallot, and when I went to peel the shallot, I found a surprise. So I am not using that shallot. Instead, I'm using an onion. And I'm just going to chop up about a 1/4 cup of it and toss it in the bowl. So, but first I'm going to put the Parmesan in there. And what I had planned to say about the Parmesan is I got this from the refrigerated section of Aldi. And this is good because it has more moisture than the dehydrated stuff that's on the shelf in the main part of the grocery store. And I think it tastes better. But it's personal preference. If you like the dehydrated stuff, then go for it. All right, next up, like I said, onion. So I'm just going to move this to the side and cut off a piece of onion. But hopefully you're using a shallot or some scallions at home because that flavor is going to be milder than this onion that I'm using. But I didn't want to omit it completely. If you are using an onion, cut it like I just did, like this, across both ways. And then cut it like this with your knife parallel to the cutting board. And then when you cut it with your knife perpendicular to the cutting board like this, it'll already be diced. And you don't have to cut it anymore. Just have to measure it. And I'm just going to put this in my 1/4 cup measure and drop it in the bowl. Okay. Next up is some garlic paste and some lemon juice. I like to put the lemon juice in at the end after I've tasted everything to make sure I don't make sure I actually need it, because sometimes it tastes good without it. It depends on your spinach and the yogurt that you're using. You don't always need lemon juice, but if you want it to be a more brighter, fresher flavor, then definitely use the lemon juice. And so you just mix it up as well as you can. It would help if my cream cheese were actually room temperature, but I only took it out like 30 minutes ago. So if your cream cheese is room temperature, it should go together quite nicely. Okay, I think I may have misjudged how much spinach I put in the pot when I wilted this. I think it was 10 ounces, but it's probably a little bit more. But that's good. I think a little extra vegetables is not going to hurt. All right, so I'm going to have lemon juice and salt on hand, ready to adjust the seasonings if necessary. Let's talk about what I'm going to dip in it. I have these rosemary olive oil whole wheat crackers. And then I also have these original wheat crackers. But these, you'll notice, don't say whole wheat on them. And if you read the ingredients on the back, which nobody does except people who have PhDs in nutrition, it says the first ingredient is enriched flour. That's regular flour that's not whole wheat flour. This one says whole grain wheat as the first ingredient. So look for something that says whole wheat on it, because just wheat is not necessarily the same as whole wheat. So you're going to get more bang for your buck nutritionally from something that says whole wheat on it. So that's what I'm going to dip into my spinach dip. And let's taste it to see see if it's good. Now, definitely taste it with whatever you're going to be eating it with. So if you're going to be eating it with crudité, definitely taste it on a carrot or something like that. I think it's good. I'm not going to add salt because this is kind of a salty cracker. I see a piece of cream cheese that I haven't mixed in very well. Eat that. Okay. So that's it for the spinach dip. Next up, we're going to make the pumpkin. And you shouldn't have to cut anything for that. And you don't have to roast anything for that. It's ready to go. So what I have is a food processor attachment. Sorry. With blades for my blender. And I'm just going to dump the ingredients in there and turn it on. So, 1 can of chickpeas. I'm using a low sodium chickpea. You can use regular sodium chickpeas. Whether you use low sodium or regular sodium, you want to rinse them first. And the rinsing removes extra protein that would make the texture weird. It does not remove the sodium. It removes some of the sodium, but not all of it. So don't think that you're turning your chickpeas into low sodium chickpeas by rinsing them. That's not how that works. The sodium is in the chickpea. Sorry to burst your bubble. All right. Next up is the pumpkin. So we need 15 ounces of pumpkin, and I'm just using this. It says 100% pure pumpkin, no preservatives. And I've had this can for a while, so I hope it doesn't need preservatives. All right. So let's get this open and get it in. There's a little color there, and I'm hoping that's just something that's in the pumpkin that's not an issue. But it's like a little brown spot. And since I've had this can for a while, I don't know. Date on it says that's a serial number. That's not a date. Um, I don't know. But the can. So I'll tell you what I learned in food safety class. Um, one thing that can happen if you have a can that's been compromised and something is growing in there that's not supposed to be in there is the can will distort and it'll be it'll either it usually like expands. If you see those cans that won't sit flat on the table, they kind of roll around because the bottom has puffed out and the top is puffed out. That is a sign that something is growing in there because something is releasing carbon dioxide and is expanding the contents of the can. Another thing that can happen is an anaerobic something grows in there, and the anaerobic something does not release carbon dioxide and does not distort the can. So you can still have something compromised in your can without it being distorted or visibly changing the look of the can, and that is actually worse. Well, both of them are pretty bad because stuff that grows in the can that distorts the can, you can actually see that. That's fine. You can just not eat that stuff. But when you can't see it, and one of the things you can't see is botulinum. The Clostridium, I think it's Clostridium is the genus, but the species is botulinum, and that's lethal. So that's why I'm taking this can of pumpkin seriously. And you can't smell the botulism toxin, and you cannot taste it. So, but I think it's fine. I'm gonna put it in there. I'll let you know if I start to feel weird. So, botulism takes hours to days for you to start to feel weird, and if you do start to feel weird, then go to the hospital quickly. All right. But I'll probably be fine. I'll see you guys at the beginning of October. No worries. And it's that time of year for pumpkins, so I picked a good recipe for this demo. All right, so we got the pumpkin in there. The next thing is garlic paste and cumin. So I'm gonna put a tablespoon of garlic paste in there. And half a teaspoon of cumin. Half a teaspoon of cumin. I did bring teaspoons. And I think the difference between hummus that you buy at the grocery store already made and hummus that you make yourself is flavor. And I think the cumin and the coriander is very important to a good hummus. Oh, this one doesn't call for coriander. This one calls for smoked paprika and red pepper flakes. I find that a lot of hummus, like store-bought hummus, is kind of bland. And I think making your own or just doctoring up that hummus when you get it home with adding some cumin, adding your smoked paprika, your coriander, whatever you think would make it taste better, your lemon juice, will also be a good idea. Just, you're not going to have as much control over how much salt is in there because it's going to be store-bought, but you will have control over the flavor of the salt. All right, the last thing I'm going to put in there is some tahini paste. And I ordered this off of Amazon. It just says pure ground sesame on there in small letters. 100% natural. I have ground sesame seeds before. Normally I make my own tahini paste, but because it calls for so much, I was like, I'm not grinding that many sesame seeds. And normally it's thicker than this. So this brand, I don't know, maybe they water it down. So I wouldn't recommend this brand, but if you find some other on Amazon that looks good, go for that. So add 3 tablespoons of tahini paste. So that's one. And there's two. And there's three. And I'm just going to set this aside. All right. Now, that's it for this. And I'm going to put it in the... Oh, the last thing is, for this one, we need liquid. And it's going to need a lot of liquid because of the pumpkin and the chickpeas. So I've got some water here. You can also use the liquid that came with the chickpeas. I drained and rinsed mine, but if you didn't do that, you could use that liquid. I just think it would be too thick, but personal preference. Depends on what you want your texture to be like. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on, and then we'll move on to the next recipe. All right, I think that's good. The good thing about hummus is, from my experience, because I have gotten a little too excited before, you cannot over blend this. Like if you're making mashed potatoes and you put it in the blender and then you get too excited, it will turn to glue. But this, if you put it in the blender and forget that you're making hummus and it should have some texture to it, it's okay. It's not going to turn to glue. It's not going to be horrible texture-wise. Also, probably should adjust the seasoning before you start dishing it up. Just FYI. I am not following my own advice. So, but I'm going to taste it now. I need something to taste it on. Let's do... okay, here's another thing I bought at Aldi. Some pretzel sticks. These have no health claims on them at all. These are full of salt, and let's see what else is in here. No saturated fat, that's good. No trans fat, that's good. 320 milligrams of sodium per 42 pretzels. That's not bad, actually. No fiber. 24 grams of carbohydrate, though, so it's got 3 grams of protein. But so it's basically all carbohydrate. There's no fat. There's no very little protein to cut how much carbs you're getting. So this will spike your blood sugar pretty good because there's nothing to slow down how fast you're absorbing the carbohydrate. Also, chickpeas have a lot of carbohydrate, and so does pumpkin. So this is not a carbohydrate or diabetes-friendly recipe. So probably should stick to the spinach dip. This needs salt, and I don't have any salt. But you can dump this out into a bowl and then add your salt. I would probably add some cayenne to this as well. The red pepper flakes, not cutting it for me. I think it needs some cayenne. The other hummuses, you can see I've already made. This is the beet, this is the roasted garlic, and this is the red pepper. And the reason I already made them is so that I can show you what they look like finished, because I only have one food presser bowl for my blender. So I'm going to show you how to put the ingredients together, but I'm not going to actually blend it and show you what it looks like. I'm going to just point to these bowls here. So, alright, so the next one that we're going to do, let's do roasted red pepper. And I'm just going to put everything in this bowl, but you can pretend that this is your blender, and that's what we're going to do. So I've got these roasted red peppers. They say fire roasted. You can roast your own red pepper if you go to the store and get a red bell pepper and you have a gas stove or a broiler. You can just put the pepper with some tongs, hold it with tongs over the fire over your stove, or if you are broiling it, what I would do is cut the inside out so it's not seeds, and so you have just a strip of red pepper, and then put that on a cast iron skillet or something, or a cast iron griddle, and put it right under your broiler and broil it until it starts getting black and crispy. Um, on the skin, you don't want the whole thing black and crispy, but the skin should get black and crispy. And now you have a roasted red pepper. Or you can go to the store and buy a jar. That's what I did. So, it's gracious. All right, I am not prepared. I need a fork. I'm just going to use this tablespoon. So go ahead and get as much roasted red pepper out as you think equals one roasted red pepper. Normally, there are whole pieces of roasted red pepper in the jar, but this jar has pieces in it. It does not have whole red peppers. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a jar that has whole red peppers in it. So I'll show you how much I'm putting in there, and then you guys can judge for yourself how much you need. I'm probably just going to put everything that's in this jar still. There. Okay. So I'll show you close up how much that is, and I'll pour off the extra liquid. So that's about how much red pepper I put in there. See, that much. I'd say that's about 1/3 of a cup. All right, so I'll pour off this extra liquid that came from the roasted red peppers. And time for another can of chickpeas. That's the second ingredient. So we got the roasted red pepper. Oh, the second ingredient is actually jalapenos. So I have diced green chili peppers. They came in a can. I put them in a container once I open the can. But it just says one, where is it? 1 canned jalapeno. I'm just going to put a tablespoon in there. A heaping tablespoon. Call it a day. Now, next up, the chickpeas. So I've got, these are rinsed and drained. That's the other word, drained. I'm just going to put that in there. So pretend that's your blender. That's your blender bucket. Put that in there. And then garlic paste and tahini. I'm going to blend this all later. Don't worry, I'm not going to waste this food. So 1 tablespoon of garlic paste. And it says 5 tablespoons of tahini. That's a lot. When I made this small batch of it here, this is about half a batch. When I made that, I put 2 tablespoons of tahini in there. So I'm going to put 4 tablespoons in this full batch. How many was that? 4? I think. 3 or 4. Because I don't think it really needs 5. I think 5 is excessive. Okay. And then sumac and smoked paprika. So sumac, if you can't find it, you can order on Amazon or get it at an Asian grocery store or a Middle Eastern grocery store, or any kind of ethnic grocery store might have it. I went to an African grocery store and they did not have it. So not any ethnic, but some ethnic. But it's basically lemon flavored. So it's a little bit more complex than a lemon, but if you don't have sumac, you can just add extra lemon or put lemon zest in there. So I put 1 teaspoon of sumac, which again you can replace with extra lemon or lemon zest. And then we need half to 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. So I'm putting in a half. And that is it for this one. So if I had a blender thing, I would blend it up. Again, add water as necessary. And then go ahead and blend it up. So I'm going to put this to the side. That's it for that. And then you have optional garnishes that you can put on these. So for the roasted red pepper, you can garnish it with extra virgin olive oil or pine nuts. What I have is sunflower kernels, roasted, unsalted sunflower kernels, because pine nuts are expensive and they go bad, and then you've wasted a lot of money. So definitely don't want to do that. All right, so the beet. Let's get to the beet. These are beets that I roasted earlier, and this is what they look like after they've been roasted. I'm going to pour the beet juice from inside the foil into the bowl because that's good flavor. And pull the beet out. Now that the beet is roasted, we got to peel it. And the peel should come off very easily if you roasted it long enough. I don't think I've actually roasted this one long enough because, I mean, it just slides off normally. I've roasted beets before in a salamander. Well, not a salamander. It was a steam jacket. I think it was a steam jacket. But the skin is supposed to fall off, and it's not doing that. So I'm gonna peel it. But anyway, peel your beets, and once you get them peeled, you can just throw them in your blender. If you're using a bullet size blender, make a half recipe, because if the whole recipe won't fit in the bullet. But if you're using a bullet, then you might have to cut the beet into quarters or something like that. Well, that piece came off easily. But if you're putting it in a full-size blender bucket or blender jar or whatever, I don't know what it's called, whatever it's called, that. If you're putting it in a full-size one, you don't have to blend it up. All right, so we've got our beet. The next thing that we need is chickpeas. And I ran out of low sodium chickpeas, and they didn't have any more at the store. I did actually remember to look for that. So I've got regular sodium chickpeas here. And that just means I'm not going to add salt when I'm through blending this. And they probably won't need salt. Okay, so we get our chickpeas in there. And then 3 tablespoons of tahini. 1, 2, 3, and 1 tablespoon of garlic paste, and some cumin, some coriander, and some sumac, half teaspoon of each. So half teaspoon of sumac. You can also use lemon zest if you skip to this point and missed me saying it earlier. Sumac is kind of a lemon flavor, more of a complex lemon flavor. Cumin. Cumin is irreplaceable, and it's ubiquitous. You can find it anywhere, so definitely use cumin. Not like that Beyonce song. And then coriander. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. Half a teaspoon of coriander. So that's half a teaspoon of all of the spices that I just listed. Sumac, cumin, and coriander. Alright. And then that's ready for the blender. And then you add your lemon juice and salt if you're not using low sodium. If you are using low sodium garbanzo beans, then you can add salt if necessary to it, and then add your lemon juice to brighten the flavor a little bit. And this is what it looks like when it's done. On my screen it looked kind of red, but it's actually a kind of like a fuchsia color, like a pink, a dark pink, almost a little bit red, but it's fuchsia in real life. I don't know what color it looks like on your screen, but it's fuchsia. So if you have a child that only eats pink foods, beet hummus. Delicious. Alright. Last but not least, we're doing roast garlic hummus. So let's do this one real quickly. What do the roast garlics look like? So this is the roast garlic after you pull it out of the oven and it cools off. No real mess in the foil. So that's what I was going for. And so I'm just going to cut it the same way I was describing cutting it earlier. Through between the stem and the roots. And then if it sticks together, which it usually doesn't, you can just squeeze, kind of like you're milking it, or like a toothpaste tube. You can just squeeze the garlic out. And you can skip the sieve part. I just like to have a fine paste, but for this we're going to put it in the blender anyway, so I guess I'll skip the sieve just in the interest of time. But make sure you don't get any peel in there, unless you're going to really blend it really well and you want extra fiber. But I don't think the peel tastes good. I haven't tested that theory though. Alright, so I've got all the garlic out. And you do the same thing with the other bulb of garlic. Let me just do that really quickly. Okay, just gonna squeeze it, milk it out. And bottom half. Now, if you had cut it like this before putting it in the oven, this cloves would have been falling out all over the place, and it would have made a mess, and it wouldn't be as easy to just squeeze it. You would have to squeeze individual cloves, garlic. They just don't stick together. Alright. Now, garbanzo beans. There's a pattern here. And these again are not low sodium, so I'm not going to add salt to my roasted garlic hummus. And if you're wondering what I'm going to do with all this hummus, I'm going to put it in the freezer. I'm going to put it in small containers and put it in the freezer. Because I read on Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt, that you can freeze hummus and it comes out fine. So we're going to see. Maybe I'll leave a comment below this video how the hummus came out after I froze it and thawed it. Okay, 1 can of garbanzos, chickpeas, same thing, and 4 tablespoons of tahini. And if you really like hummus and you eat it every day and you have a snack of hummus every day, you could just play this video on the weekend make all your hummus for the week, freeze it, take it out of the freezer as you eat it, and be a happy camper. 1 teaspoon of sumac. What do I do with it? There it is. Teaspoon of sumac and half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now, I made this garlic one earlier, and I think it was enough cayenne. I wouldn't add more than half a teaspoon unless you want it spicy, but it was not spicy with half a teaspoon. Not by my definition anyway. So it was just flavorful. It wasn't spicy. So half a teaspoon of cayenne, and then the last thing we want is za'atar. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to say it, but that's what it looks like. Za'atar seasoning, and it's basically a mix. Let's see if it has it on the ingredients. Ground sumac is in there. It's the first ingredient. So, and I got this at Kroger because it says private selection on there. And then it just says spices. Ground sumac, spices, sesame seeds, and salt. So this does have salt in it. It's not a salt-free mix. So keep that in mind. So this is not low sodium chickpeas, and I'm adding salt to it. So definitely not going to add any more salt when I'm done blending it. So I need 1 teaspoon of this za'atar. And the spices that are in there, the little green flakes, that is, I want to say oregano. I forget which herb. But there's an herb and then cumin. I think fenugreek. I was looking this up earlier. I've made za'atar before, but I can't remember what I put in it. I know sesame seeds, 1 herb. I think it was oregano, but I'm not sure. And cumin, and then the sumac. So... But you can look up the recipe for za'atar if you're interested in making it yourself. It's like 5 ingredients. It's like Chinese 5-spice, but not Chinese. Alright, so that's it. So this goes in the blender, and then you take it out, you taste it, you add your seasonings, your lemon juice, and you call it a day. So that's the end of this demo. This is not... oh, and this is what it looks like. This is the garlic one. And this is the red pepper one. And there's a fly. And so these are the things that I'm going to dip in there. I'm going to dip carrots as I peel and cut them. I've got celery here. And I've got all the whole wheat things that I showed you. Minus the pretzel sticks. So that's one thing. The pretzel sticks are there to as a suggestion of what not to eat. Okay. But if you want pretzel sticks, you can eat them. Just pay attention to the serving size. Okay. So thank you for joining. This was kind of long. This was longer than I anticipated, unfortunately. But we made 5 dipping sauces in 46 minutes. So that's a lot. All right. Thank you for joining. We made a hypertension-friendly meal. And a hypertension-friendly snack, and the spinach dip is diabetes-friendly. So next time, it'll be the beginning of October, and I don't know what I'm making yet, but I will let you know in advance, and we can cook together. So thanks for joining. Have a great weekend.